This video is also about my journey to show you where I was. So who was the top dog when I was looking to understand dysfunction and the child within? It was none other than John Bradshaw, and you may have seen him because he certainly was on PBS. He had a whole series. I'm trying to find the book that I believe I started out with, and I think it was Healing the Shame That Binds You. This was excellent. We all have some shame and some guilt. Sometimes I think it's hard-drived into our DNA. The next one was Homecoming, Reclaiming and Championing Your Inner Child. Creating Love, the next great stage of growth. Excellent book. Bradshaw on the Family. This is one that I recommend for you out there if you feel like you're okay, but you weren't sure about your family. If you're at that point, then you might want to look into understanding your family to see how that may help you understand some of your behaviors, some of your patterns, some of the things that you struggle with. And then, of course, Family Secrets. What you don't know can hurt you. Remember, if you come from an alcoholic family or a family where there is spousal abuse, sexual abuse, there's a taboo that you do not say anything outside the family, that you keep these secrets in yourself, and basically that's what that addresses. Now, let's get back to the book that I said I feel is very powerful for understanding dysfunction. And when we understand dysfunction, we certainly can then address the shadow. The book is by Janet, trying to remember how to pronounce her last name. I believe it is Valtis. Forgive me if I am wrong. Now, this is the expanded edition. Her first book, Adult Children of Alcoholics, did not have the preface to where now she says, and let me read this to you. It is the legacy of growing up in an alcoholic home or any type of dysfunctional environment, where it is now indicating that you don't have to be an adult child of an alcoholic to get tons of insight, healing, and understanding about the dysfunctions of a family. This is number one as far as I'm concerned that I give to clients and people who are struggling with repeated patterns of bad relationships, codependency, why you are either overly responsible or under-responsible, aspects of your personality where you have a very short trigger that sets you off and you feel so bad after, feel guilty, feel remorse, feel shamed. Those are all kind of the symptoms and questions and answers that she addresses. All right, now the other person that goes back to understanding a great deal about the shadow is Romancing the Shadow by Connie Zeig. Now, here is another wake-up that, it wasn't this book, I think it was another one of her book, or maybe a seminar that I had attended. She talks about a story her story about her awareness of even, let's say, yogis, practitioners from the East. And she gives an account of a yogi and his ashram in Massachusetts, that his shadow came out, and unfortunately it caused the ashram and all its followers to crumble, to fall. And she talks about how in her practice and her study, she's noticed a lot of the Eastern teachers are so well equipped. They are wonderful spiritual teachers, but 90% of them lack emotional maturity. She says they are so unhealed emotional with their shadow selves that is not addressed. The unconscious part is not addressed. The spirituality is, the meditation, the connection with the divine is, yet the emotional child within them are not. And she gives account about many of the ashrams and yogis and teachers and gurus having major issues as the shadow is presented and unhealed. This is the second book by Debbie Ford, The Secret of the Shadow, The Power of Owning the Whole Story, where it goes a little bit deeper into shadow work. Excellent book that I recommend. Okay, now, going back to me and my practice, the other thing that I became aware of, and you know, let me also say to everyone out there that I am still working on my wholeness after 35 years. I will continue to work on my wholeness because I believe, well, there's two things going on. In what's happening in the universe right now, as you well know, many of you who are probably listening to this video, there's an evolution in our consciousness as well as our evolution in our own private study. And a lot of our, let's say, denser material of ourselves, you know, our carbon, our body, our vehicle here, is rising and lightening up. That is because we are at this stage in our evolution. And we are seeing more dysfunction being played out because of that. Unwillingly, we are becoming more light bodies. And these layers that all of us may not have tapped into, you know, at a very young age, where there may have been drama or pain, or where we forgot about our disowned self, are surfacing. And sometimes we don't know why we're depressed or why things aren't working well, and we just have to be patient and loving and know that this too will pass, that this is just an imprint that will eventually dissipate into the light as we go forward. So I wanted to bring that up too. The other thing is, another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is in my practice of being a teacher, a broadcaster, which I no longer do anymore, but in being aware of the importance of giving this information. When I was assisting people, whether that was doing readings on the air or doing readings in my practice, my private office, I also knew through all this work in psychology that there were not myself and my client in the room, but there were basically 6 people. I became aware of that when I, kind of read The Family by John Bradshaw, but more so by Robert Subby in his book, Healing the Family Within, where it comes to your attention, my attention, the dynamics of why at certain times readings really work, counseling really works, giving advice really works, and other times it falls short, or the person doesn't grasp as much as they can, or there's a resistance, because at each given time of day, you may have noticed that in yourself, there's a different part of you. The family within is your adult self, is who you are, and then there is your child. There is 3 aspects of that person, of that personality. Now, some therapists call it the mother, father, child, where you have the mother coming out in this particular situation, or you have the father figure coming out, or you have the child within you coming out. Understanding this in doing your tarot readings and tarot counseling is so valuable, because again, by personal experience that I'm sharing with you, many times when I would lay out the cards and look up at my client, I would say, now this is happening, and can you identify with it, and can you tell me your part of what we are seeing here? Sometimes magically, the adult that was sitting in front of me may have turned to the child, and the arms might get crossed, or this look of suspicion or fear or guilt or a very uncomfortable feeling came over, and there was no more counseling. No one was hearing anything more. You were seeing the person on survival mode. They checked out for a few minutes, or they didn't want to go there, or if they did go there, they might go there with blame, or they might go there with yes but. So understanding this part can help you redirect, or not even go back and say, gee, where did I go wrong? Or I mean, I used to go back and say, okay, was it my facial feature? Did I say something wrong? I resorted back to me being incomplete or incompetent. And sometimes possibly that was true, but most of the time it is what you are bringing up within them, their blocks, their resistance. So that's another reason why I felt that it was important that I do this video, as well as you understanding who I am a little deeper, and my interest in understanding the shadow, and why I am offering that up to you to see if possibly that is something that will help you be happier and healthier. Debbie Ford goes on and even talks about how it helps our cell tissue, how it repairs our DNA as we heal these unhealed parts of ourselves, our disowned parts of ourselves. So I think I've said enough for now. I think that you will be convinced that I'm addicted to books. I read 24/7. In fact, when I was doing my my work on the radio, I had 2 shows. One of them had to do with interviewing book authors, and I had to read a book a week for that author, so I've learned how to read very, very quickly. And I've met some fascinating people. I've met some fascinating authors because of that. And of course, my library is overwhelming with books because authors would want to see if I would be interested in interviewing them, so they would send me their books all the time. And I kept many of them, and they're very valuable to me. So yeah, I guess my addiction is definitely reading books, being an unhealed. I'm still an unhealed healer. Of course, as I said earlier, we're always healing, but insight awareness is important to me, and I want to be the best vehicle that I can be for my family, for my children, my grandchildren, and certainly for anyone who comes to me for consultation. I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks, everyone. I know this was lengthy. Take care. Bye for now.